Okay. Thank you so much, ladies, for creating time to join today's meeting. It's one of our many other sessions that are coming up. And so today we will be speaking about communication. Most times our bodies communicate what our mouth are not saying. And so we're going to learn from our guest today, who will be introduced later after our prayers by Stella. And so we will be able to learn more on how to communicate with words and also our bodies. And so today's session is as the others have been. Please, if you're not speaking, you mute yourself. And if you have any question, please type it under chat. If you'd like to speak, you raise up your hand. Your raise up hand is below participants. You will see it there, and then you can be able to raise your hand. Halima. Thanks. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself so that we give our speaker ample time to take us through the session. If you have a question, as I said, please type it under chat. Esther is following, and she will be able to answer. She will be able to ask our speaker, will answer all our questions. And if you would like to speak, don't speak before you've been allowed to. Please raise up your hand and you'll be allowed to speak by the speaker or one of the co-hosts who is Patience, myself, and Esther. So please let's... Please let's cooperate. Halima, please mute yourself. Halima Osman, please mute yourself. Thank you. So we are going to start our session right now, and we will have an opening prayer from Brenda Nunda. Brenda?
Morning, everyone. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for today, for this session, and for every family represented in this session. We give you thanks and glory, and we pray that you may lead us, guide us, and protect us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. So I take this session back to Stella, who's going to introduce our speaker for today. Stella, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning, ladies. It's lovely to see all of you, and this is such a great forum. It's been my pleasure to join, and today I have the honor of introducing a woman who means a lot to me. And I mean a lot, a whole lot, not just to me, but to my family as well. We are celebrating a decade of friendship this year. We've been friends for 10 years. So when Esther sent me the message to introduce her, I felt so honored. This is one of the most honorable things I have done this year. So let me introduce Wangoi Kiili, who is a human communications consultant at Lead Speak Reach. She has built a 19-year career in communications that started at the People Weekly, which is now the People Daily newspaper, where she earned a distinction for the coverage on issues of the environment and women activism before cutting her teeth in event organization and eventually public relations at various agencies in Nairobi and Kampala. It was while working with Square Gold PR that she understood the power of human communication in connecting with audiences. After a 3-year stint, she left to start Lead Speak Reach in 2012. Wangoi is regularly featured as an analyst on national television and radio and shares regular videos teaching on communication through her social media channels. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communication from Daystar University and a Master of Arts in Leadership from Park University. Wangoi is a volunteer teacher at Ruaka Kids, the children's ministry of Mamlaka Hill Chapel, and is an enthusiastic farmer. She is married to Charles Kiili. Sorry, I was about to call him Carl because that's what we call him. So Carl Kiili, and they run a production company together. They also make delicious bread, and I'm a proud customer of hers. Just on a personal note, that as Wangoi speaks about communicating both verbally and non-verbally, she has expressed her friendship to me and my family in both ways. And so it's my pleasure and my honor to introduce her and to give her the floor. Welcome, Wangui.
Thank you, Stella. I guess I was about to say thank you, Toasty, because that's that's how we call each other. Thank you. Sometimes when your friends introduce you, it doesn't feel like it's you who's being talked about. So thank you for that honor, and welcome, ladies. I have to say something. This is very scary to do. I was telling Esther that every single time I speak in public, and this is funny because I teach public relations, I always get the jitters. I think maybe one of the reasons why God gave me a mission to do public speaking is because I really relate to the nerves, because I really get nervous when I speak in public. But anywho, we're not going to lose time with that. I usually just use it to power up what I need to do. And so good morning. Thank you all for spending just a few minutes to sort of just listen to me as I speak to us a little bit about our communication. And so what we are going to do is that I'm going to share a presentation. I'm just about to share the screen in a short while. Yes, we got it. Everyone can see the screen. Just show me a thumbs up, tafadhali. Okay, well, for those that are on video, can everyone see? Can you see the screen? Oh, great, excellent. All right, that means we can go ahead. And so, so we're going to be talking about verbal and nonverbal communication. And I think one of the things when I started out at Lead Speak Reach, the thing that I thought I was called to do was to teach people to speak in public, until I realized as I began to practice and coach people and mentor them and even train, that a lot of our communication is not just the external part of what we see. So it's all well, fine and dandy to be able to do a wonderful presentation. But most times, where that content is coming from becomes an important place to be able to find and be able to give proper wording or proper communication to those we're speaking to. And so today, that's where we begin. I just want to sort of take us through my second slide, just an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So I will share something about your key speech. What is your most important speech? We're going to have a little discussion about your internal dialogue. We will have a discussion on personal attributes, your presence in a presentation, what to do about your content, the people, your people, who are you talking to? And then your reach, how do you actually know that you're reaching people and you're getting to them? And also your progress, how do you measure that you're doing well as a speaker? And so the thing that I have learned in my practice is that you have one key speech. And that speech is answering the question, who are you to yourself? The most important speech that you can have is the speech that you talk to yourself, the way you talk to yourself. We make thousands of speeches, thousands. We speak to people. Just now, you know, I was just sitting in muted, listening to everybody, just sort of having a conversation about, you know, catching up, what's going on. There was a conversation about how we are moving into rural areas. There was a conversation about the hackings that have just happened. We have tons of conversations. We have them in private and we have them in public. But of all the issues in our communication, one of the most important speeches is the one that we never talk about. And that is the speech that we talk to ourselves about, the one that we speak to ourselves. Sometimes we do good speeches. Sometimes we stand up and give great presentations. At times we don't give very good presentations. But the one place, and I'm lingering here a bit because I hope to make a point as we open up. The one place that you always need to get it right is the speech that you speak to yourself. You will never be able to reach people. You will never be able to reach or speak well of brands until and unless you get to the place where you have understood how you speak to yourself. where you get to the place, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit because I want to start us from our internal dialogue. Because the way you speak to yourself it shows up in the way you speak to other people. How do you speak to you? That's actually the question. If you're taking notes, that's the question to write down. Who are you to you, and how do you speak to you? The most important speech, your key speech, is this one, the one you speak to yourself. And this one is the one where you don't get feedback, you get results. The way you speak to yourself is the feedback comes out in the results of how you speak to others, the results of how you treat others, the result of how you respond to conversations when they are negative conversations, when people speak ill of you, when people look down on you, when people speak highly of you. How you respond is a direct sort of result of how you speak to yourself. And so you are ultimately the result of the words that you speak to yourself. So your key speech, that's a critical place. It's a place that we need to start up. So what really is your key speech? Your key speech is what you're even thinking about now. Do you think about what you think about? It's what you're thinking about this session. It's what you're thinking about what you're going to be doing afterwards. It's the things that you think about over and over. It's like there's a motor running, but really at times you're not monitoring that motor, but it's there and it's running. And when we learn to listen to that key speech, how we speak to ourselves, how do you speak to yourself, for example, when you have you perceive that you have done something wrong, or you perceive that you have done something right? Have you ever noticed that many times the way you speak to yourself, you would not dare speak to other people that way? You know, you fail to submit an assignment if you're a student, or you're late in doing something, and you really speak down on yourself. You really are laden with shame and guilt and that sort of thing, but you don't do that to other people. You give other people the benefit of a doubt, but you don't give yourself the benefit of a doubt. And especially, I have to say, this is for our species, not species. Our species as women, we tend to really very easily blame ourselves when things go wrong instead of giving ourselves the benefit of a doubt. So what is then, how then do we sort of frame this key speech? Let's start from there. This is your internal dialogue. The dialogue, people will call it a monologue, but it's a dialogue because you ask and answer from where I sit. The conversation you have with yourself. It is the most powerful communication tool. It powers your voice. It frames your words. It mirrors your experiences. How you view the world comes out through this. You also have the most influence over this dialogue. It is you that has the most influence over it. And why do I say you? Say, for example, you are the one who the things, that you allow to come into yourself, the things that you allow to be spoken into your life. You're the one that puts a filter there. If there's a place you need filters, this is it. Forget Snapchat, forget Instagram. Your internal dialogue is a place where you need the most filters. Let's put it in perspective. You're having a conversation, for example, just about something like what? Like, let me use an example. I usually have a huge internal dialogue with about food, for instance. So I'll sit down and think, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Why do I want to take this? And then I say, no, I shouldn't take that. Maybe I should take something that's more healthy. And then I end up taking the not healthy option. And then I go to myself and think, why did I do that? How did I, what did I? That conversation, that's your internal dialogue. You're having it all the time, whether you realize it's going on or not. Now, the reason why, what I hope that we can achieve today is be able to understand that our communication comes from there. If you hack understanding and being your self-awareness at the level of your internal dialogue, you will be halfway there. Before we even begin to speak about the clothes and the content and how to power up and how to take over the room, the most important conversation is the one that you have inside. And many of us are not having that. So we need to examine that. Think about, we're talking about many things that your internal dialogue is susceptible to, many influences. The way you were raised, for example. By the way, do you know that the way you speak, even the way you interact with people, is highly influenced by how you are brought up. What you thought or felt about school, those things are really, really important, and they are formed in our formative stages. A lot of the times, again, what I have seen in my practice is that many times when I'm coaching clients and they're trying to power up their voice, a lot of your voice is shaped when you are young. So many times, again, going back into communication, we are pulling back to our formative years, the years when we were young, because that's when for most of us, our dialogue is taking place. So the way you are spoken to at that younger age helps you form how you speak to yourself. If your parents were loving, generally parents that were things like, do you want to eat this? No, I don't want to eat this. That sort of thing. If you had that kind of dialogue, you pretty much grow up understanding, okay, I can put boundaries in place, I can do this, I can do that. But if you grew up like, unfortunately, many of us did, we were told what to do. We were told what to eat. We were told where to go to school. You did not have a say in what you wore. You did not have a say in even the kind of places that you went. A lot of us did not have that privilege. And so you grow up with a very suppressed internal dialogue, wondering which places you can think and which places you can't. And I felt resonated with this practice in a whole lot. And they were talking about money and how, can I go on? Okay. I think there's someone who,
Yes, please do.
all right. Okay, all right. Thanks, Sheila. So this person was talking about money and how many of us, at least if you grew up in this country, how many of us have an unhealthy relationship with money, pretty much because we were never taught how to have a relationship with money. You ask for money, you were told there is no money, depending on how depending on how your social status were, or the economic status of your family. So we grew up, many of us may have grown up with a struggle, there's a struggle for school fees. There's not much that you can get for in terms of extracurricular monies. I don't think many of us grew up. If you did this, this is like a privilege. Grew up with allowances. I think something that we are now building up with our children as we go along. Many of us may not have grown up with that. So the person was opining that because we did not have that kind of relationship with money, we found we've gotten to use money as the feast and famine, yes, the feast and famine sort of rhythm with money. When we have plenty of it, we're going to spend it, we're going to live it up like there's no tomorrow. And when there's none, we learn to, tie up and tighten our belts so that we're able to cope. And that's the relationship we have with money. When you have plenty, you spend. When you don't have plenty, you don't spend. Instead of using money as a medium to help us get around. And I think for me, that came into a lot of things. A lot of us grew up like that. We did not have the privilege of having conversations with our parents. We got instructions. We were told these were the instructions. If you again went to through a Kenyan school system, it was the same. We went through the same. Teachers told you what to do, and even when we asked questions, you could not ask questions that were engaging. The whole reason why, as parents and as even people within society, like I said, I teach Sunday school. One of the biggest reasons that we have, reasons that hinder us from speaking to children about sex education is that we don't know how to say it. How do we talk to them about something that was never talked to us? And people have all of these humorous stories about how sex education was told to them. Someone told me that their parents just came and told them when they got their period, this is it. If you sleep with a boy, they were in class 6. If you sleep with a boy, you get pregnant, and that's the end of it. And that's all the sex education that they got. Nothing about what the body changes means, nothing about that. So they don't grow up with that kind of conversation. And so we end up having an internal dialogue that's really, there's no self-awareness in it. And that's why I'm saying, as we are getting to this level, we need to begin to question why our dialogue is the way it is. Think about the things that you're thinking about. Question even things that were told to you as facts and truths, because then you begin to question, where did this come from? Is this the truth? Is this a fact? That's the way we begin to now sort of clear out our system. Why? Because when we talk about communication, communication is the exchange of information between one party to another party with the expectation of feedback. Now, if the content that you're exchanging is warped, guess what? All you're doing is transferring heaviness, toxicity, a level of uncertainty to somebody else. And I'll talk about this in terms of why this is important, especially for those of us who are, I mean, there are those people under us, you know, with all ascendancy and all, people that are working under us. Why is it important that our own personal communication needs to be sorted out? So that's internal dialogue. So if you want to restore the foundation of your internal dialogue, the place where your key speech comes from, because this is it. I've talked about the formative years and how, by the way, and I repeat this, this was naive. I actually naively thought that my work was to just help people stand up on the stage and do a good presentation. So if I help them with their slides, if I help them with powering up, if I help them with their voice, and if I help them with their presence, they'd be good. But then as I went on, I started to realize there's something wrong with this equation, because you're talking to somebody and then there seems to be, you know, it's like the way there's a potato in your throat and you can't speak well. There seemed to be that. And so I started sort of just checking up a little bit in terms of just having conversations with a couple of my clients. And many of the times I actually found out a lot of our internal dialogue pushed from the formative years. That's where it's either molded or destroyed. And again, I realized that for me, this is personally a faith thing, that the battle that is on for me is the battle for my voice. If my detractors can manage to remove my voice from the equation, then they'll have won the battle. And I put it to you that it's for many of us. Your voice is your gift. It's the most powerful thing that you can ever have. And so as you go back to the place where speaking begins, there are three things I have found that influence how you speak in addition to this. And I'm going to talk to them about, I'm going to talk about them to us. So the first thing is that the temperament of your dominant parent, if you grew up in a two-parent household, the temperament of the dominant parent is very influential in how you speak. How, if your father was the dominant parent, then how they speak or their temperament has a huge impact on how you speak. If your mom is that ran things at home and she was the boss and she was an iron lady and everything, and if you're a parent, by the way, if for the moms in the room, if you're the dominant parent, how that your temperament has an impact on how your own children will be able to speak. So that's one, the temperament of a dominant parent. Then there's the temperament and speech abilities of your formative educators. This is your teachers in nursery, your class 1 to say class 3 teachers. Again, Kenyan system. Class 1 to 3, this is from year what? Say 5 years to around 9 years. The teachers who taught you there, those have an effect on how you speak. So the way we say the shrubbing or lack thereof, as we speak in Kenya, the love of speech, the way you express yourself, your love for books, if you love to read, your love for expressing yourself in poetry, a lot of it comes from here. I'm talking about specifically speech abilities. The temperament of your dominant parent is one. Secondly, the temperament and speech abilities of your nursery school teacher, your class 1 to say class 3 teachers. For those people that loved this set of teachers, you're much more likely to be confident. You're a confident speaker. You go out and put yourself out there. I still remember, personally for me, my nursery school principal was one of a kind. She was an amazing, amazing woman. I still remember her. She was very tall, very lanky, and she wore pants throughout. I went to nursery school in the 80s, and this woman, she had played pants of every shape and size, and she was, she held her own. She ran a business, and she was involved in our work, and she infused a lot of confidence in many of us that went to her school. And so the third thing, again, so I've said the temperament of your dominant parent, the temperament and speech abilities of your nursery to class 1, say 3 teachers, and your own temperament and how that temperament was perceived by those around you. I'm going to get to hear this probably during the question and answer session, but those of us who are sanguines, if you're especially a super sanguine at a younger age, I really hope that the people that brought you up appreciated that you are sanguine. Many sanguines, especially when they are young, parents have a tendency to say, this one is too loud. This one makes too much noise. This one is all over the place. And it can have an effect on you, especially as a sanguine, because sanguines are amazing, but they're also super sensitive. It can have an effect on you and cause you to really put sort of gaps in your speech. And that affects the way you speak to others, which is really sad, because I think sanguines are amazing in bringing joy to the world. If you were very quiet, for example, if you were a male or a phlegmatic, and growing up, your parents said, you're always too quiet, you don't have anything to say, that sort of thing. Or they brought it up. They said they realized that maybe words are not your thing, but can you draw? Can you write a letter? If they encouraged you, you're very, very likely to then become a much more confident speaker going along. And so these 3 areas are critical. And I want to slowly sort of ease us from that internal dialogue, because that's a really running topic. I tell you, if we're to talk about internal dialogue, it would be a topic on its own, because we need to move along. I want us to talk about what our personal attributes are, because we've talked about some of the influences that have come to us. But then again, we then need to move to a level where we talk about our personal attributes. What is it that speaks of us? What speaks of you? What do you bring in? Remember, we were talking about an aroma. What's your scent like? Where is this scent coming from? So there's a place of influence, but then now there's a place of your personal attributes. And the 3 things for me that I have looked at, to share with us. One is your personality and your temperament, your voice, and your connection to people. So let's talk about it. Of course, there's a difference between and you're all communicators. This is, personality and temperament, I'm sure we know are 2 different things. Personality is character, loosely. Personality is character, a collection of the things that make you you, and your temperament are your behavioral qualities. So the way the outward self, your behavior is sort of what denotes your temperament, what we see. And I use an example, like personality is like this really good bra that you've bought. It fits you, it's your size and everything. And your temperament is the top that you wear that then sort of like shows how well you're all powered up or packed up or that sort of thing. So one is on the inside, the other is on the outside. So personality, bra; temperament, top over the bra. I hope that's clear. Interesting, weird example though. So one is on the inside, the other is on the outside. And so your personality and where you're coming from, a lot of these things that we've just talked about, your internal dialogue, your key speech, all of these things have also shaped your personality. So what are you bringing into the table? What are you bringing in terms of words? What are you bringing in terms of the behavior, even that you exhibit? And just look at it. I mean even just looking at, for instance, within the group, the kind of conversations that we have. You have conversations where there are people that are really fired up and they talk about all of these things that are very, content-based or industry-based within the industry. But then you also have the people that will bring play into the conversation. So they're the ones that are talking about all of this funny news, all of what has happened during the day. And all of this is all personality based. And then the way people express themselves, that also speaks of temperament. What is their temperament? A second thing is that your voice is your carrier. It is the network that downloads the data that you have collected throughout your experiences and what your purpose is, your voice. That's what you bring to the table. Every single one of us has a voice. And a bigger voice is not necessarily a good voice. A clearer voice is not necessarily a good voice. A voice is a voice. You take it the same way you take a personal garden that you have and tend it to make your own, to make it suit the purpose and the experiences that you have been through. Some of us speak powerfully. Others of us will speak softly. Some of us speak with such aura and presence, and that brings a lot to the table. Voices have a huge personality around them. So it downloads, it's what sort of speaks to all of the experiences and the purpose that you have. Of course, the quality of it matters. The quality of your voice matters, whether it is a big voice, whether it is not too big a voice, the quality of it matters. And how the quality of it does, I mean, for those of us that maybe feel that you have too soft a voice, not a problem. You can actually get tons of training. At the end of this, I'll actually give us some free resources of where we can actually go and look at places where we can build up our voices and also build up our presentation areas. I'll give us some links at the end of it. But the thing is, your internal voice, the one from the internal dialogue, that's the one that projects externally. That's why it's important to talk about communication from behind. You go back, you pull back so that you can come to the place of now we're doing a presentation. When you tackle your internal voice, use filters, check who is coming in, check who is speaking into your life, check what is speaking into your life, check your comparisons, check. And you know, many times we will say, okay, it's just a matter of ensuring that you have it all in place. No, actually, you need to actually be at a place where you're checking, where did even some truths enter in my life? Who told me that this doesn't work this way? Who told me that people that speak a certain way are the ones that get opportunities? Begin to question what your internal voice is and begin to correct what is not correct or factual for where you're going in terms of your career, in terms of, and I don't think we use voice or we use presentations just for our careers. This is our lives. This is the way we present ourselves to people. So the way you present yourself as a parent, the way you present yourself as an employer, the way you present yourself as an employee, as a student, as a leader of the nation, as a person that speaks within the community, it is so critical for us to be properly adjusted internally before we can speak to others. When you tackle your internal voice using filters, check what's coming in, verify the truth, ask this piece of information that I'm getting, the way I'm feeling irritated, where is that coming from? Check, learn to be an active participant in the things that are actually getting in. One of the recommendations that I would give us in terms of a book right now, before we go on, is something that has helped me personally in my practice. A book by Dr. Caroline Leaf. It's called Switch On Your Brain. It's one of the most wonderful books I have read by a scientist. Switch On Your Brain is just talking about the plasticity of the brain and how it is so possible for us to change the conversations or the thoughts that we have held on for so long if they are not serving our needs. You can change your mind, you can change your thought life, and then change your conversation. And so for example, let me give the example, you know, when it comes to matters of competence, for instance, with us women, it can really debilitate us when it comes to thinking about competence. We allow the pressure to perform, the pressure of how others look, the pressure of how other people are presenting themselves. We look at what other people have done and then we think, hey, I think that's the standard. Or I am not matching up to that person's level and I need to up myself. And then immediately you move to the place where you begin to now have negative thoughts. Why am I like this? Why did I do this? How can I do this? How come I don't ever get to be like this? You know, it said that with us women, we tend to, because we look at each other often, we can tend to have conflict because it's unspoken. We have all of these unspoken things that bother us about somebody else. Instead of just telling them that this is something, you're doing something great. This is something great that you're doing. We begin to look at it as if it's a reflection on our own failure. If someone, for instance, is a great mom and they're able to, they have their children all tidied up and you're struggling with that area, you look at it and you feel a bit of resentment because you're wondering, why am I unable to do that? Instead of just realizing, by the way, I may not be very good at the tidiness of children and homes, and there's the scrubbing of sufurias, shining them and that sort of thing. There are people who are highly gifted in that, but just because that's not you, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong. But if you introduce that into your conversation, it will begin to look, you will begin to tell yourself that there's something wrong. By the way, you are the biggest detractor of your own presentation. It is you that tells yourself I'm doing a good job, or you that tells yourself that I'm not doing a good job. You're the one who says what will go and what won't go. And so if you really determine, imagine there are things that won't bother me, things, and with us, it's a whole lot of things. It's weight, it's education, it's family, it's social status, it's this and that. And we need to bring that whole dialogue, because those things that look unrelated to our work as communicators actually has an effect on how we behave as communicators and how we present as communicators. And so as I still speak on the voice, your physical voice then becomes the manifestation of what you carry. Someone had asked earlier about our tone. And I'll say this, check your tone every single time. Check your tone. It carries meaning. As people hear your words as they're coming out, they also hear your tone. And your tone is intangible. It's there, but it's not there. It carries meaning, and it is what people hear when you speak. And so, let me give you an example. A statement, a simple statement. This statement was given by Julian Treasure. And he says, I can ask, where did you keep my keys? I could ask a question. Let me use Stella. Stella, where did you keep my keys? I can ask her that and she'll tell me, oh, okay, I put them in this place and that place. But if I come, same words, and ask, Stella, where did you keep my keys? Same words, different tone, and most definitely different reactions. The way your audience is going to feed back to you is based on your tone. Check your tone, and check your tone not just at work, check your tone in personal conversations. Are you the kind of person that speaks down at people or looks down at people? Do you have a different tone for speaking to people in service, and do you have a different tone for speaking to your bosses? Check your tone. At times, and by the way, this can be different. I've noticed something. Like, for instance, there are places you will go. This is something funny. We always do this experiment at work. There are places where you will go, and when you greet people, they look at you funny. So you go and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I'm looking for. And they look at you in a funny way because they're wondering, okay, unatusalimia kwa nini? And there are places you will just go and say, sasa, ninatafuta this and this and this and this, iko. They'll say, yeah, sure, iko, that sort of thing. So you need to use discretion to understand what context to use what tone. There are times you will use informal language and informal tone because of the place where you're at. And there are places you will go trying to be all formal and office-like, and you miss the mark. Okay, so check your tone. It carries what you mean. I'll just tell us this. For the cholerics among us, check that you're not speaking at people. Sanguines, check that you're not up talking and isolating everyone else. You're taking over the room and nobody else is able to bring in a word into this conversation. For males and phlegmatics who are the introverts among us, bring your voice to the table. In fact, I'll tell you something. What I have found out in my practice is that the more quieter or the more introverted people, this is my experience. You might have a different experience. For me, my most introverted clients have turned out to be some of the best speakers that I know. Why? Here is the thing. This is what I pointed to. They have an amazing ability to analyze situations. They have an ability to create, the patience to create content, and thus they're able to bring to the table only what they have thought about. They have thought about it, they have checked it, they have ensured that they have done a good job. And that's why the introverts among us, because they take time to analyze information, they end up becoming very, very powerful speakers. Some of the examples that I'll give us in terms of speakers, I've used a few external ones, and later I can share a few of the local ones, because we've had a lot of talking engagements locally, that have really come up, and they're really good. You will actually find that the people that even struggle with speaking tend to make the best speakers. For the extroverts, because we think we can do it, because we think we're overconfident, I can stand up and just, this is just a speech. And we tend to sort of skip on the preparation beat. I think I'm going to talk about preparation in a short while. Prepare, that it's important to prepare. So for introverts, bring your voice to the table. For the extroverts, measure or check your voice so that you know that you are not isolating other people. While we're still on voice, your pitch is important. This is your sound. You know how we can distinguish between two radio stations? They are both FM stations, but you can still distinguish that this is one station and this is another station. That's a station sound. It's the same thing with our speech. It's the way I know it's Stella who's speaking, it's Sheila who's speaking, it's someone else who's speaking. That's how you know your pitch is your sound. And for us women, I saw something that says that for us women, because we can tend to have, especially when our emotions are we're having not when our emotions are high, when we're having something that is engaging us. It could be an activism. It could be activism content. It could be content that really means much to us. Our pitch can tend to go higher. So if you're speaking, and especially now this is for a formal setup, when you're speaking in a formal setup and this gets to you, remember something, and I teach people this, that we listen to people whose voices, it's a little lower. Don't speak from your throat, just go a little lower. Speak from your chest. When you speak from your chest, when the words come from your chest, you're able to bring out something that's much more powerful, something that's much more mellowed, even when you still feel very strongly about it. So resist the urge to speak from your throat, because it can tend to be shrilly for many people and the people that are hearing you. Now that is in a formal setup. In a much more informal setup, and these are the personal conversations that we have. So this would be our one-on-one relationships, interpersonal relationships. It could also be when we are communicating in small groups, and that also happens. What you do, take a step back. Just take, and a step back is not going all away. It's not moving away from the conversation. Just take a step back, about 3 to 6 seconds, not to be technical about this. Just listen. Just listen to what you're feeling very, very quickly, and then make up your mind what goes and what doesn't go. Resist the urge to actually get into a banter and going back and forth. It's one of the things, again, that completely removes your strength and power from your verbal and non-verbal communication, but verbal especially. And then the third thing in this slide of personal attributes is that we are connecting. How do you connect? Connection has to do with how well we receive others, how we engage with them, at the very least, how we engage with them. It also has to do with how others receive us before they even hear or see what we have to say. A connection. How do you connect with people? This personal attribute speaks to something I have to talk about something I have to talk about in terms, I think, of your character. I think that's the place to be. Your character. Where are you coming from? Are you a kind person? Are you generous? Do you give others way? way in terms of conversation? Are you the person that stands up for people? At times you'll find somebody who's trying to raise their voice to say something, or they're asking something, and immediately you perceive that you have a more influential voice and lift that voice up for them. That sort of thing helps us connect with people. Connecting has everything to do with kindness. Connecting has everything to do with having the street smarts to understand and decode what respect is to different people. To me, respect could mean saying hi to me when you just meet up with me. Hi, Wangoi, how are you doing today? What's going on? Small talk before you engage me. To someone else, respect could be you just come in and tell me what you want. Hi, Wangoi, I was hoping to talk to you about this. Could you give me this? Different strokes for different folk. Now, your connection has everything to do with the street smart, kuelewa, understanding what each person needs that is around your circle of influence. What do they need? And how do they need it? As you begin to understand that, again, I'm going back to the internal dialogue and your aroma. The moment you have an internal dialogue that you're okay and confident with yourself, do you know what it frees you up to do? It frees you to actually listen to other people. And so you're very easily able to pick up what other people need before they even say it. And this is important for us at work. Begin to understand, what do people need before they even ask for it? You're beginning to decode that, and you begin to build up your reputation as a connector who respects others. So kindness, respect. And this is also respecting and being kind about people that have different opinions from yourself. Respecting people that don't necessarily have a view that you have. Don't shut people down because you're disagreeing with them. Don't shut people down because they're saying something that you don't like or something that you feel differently towards. Learn to have a connection. That means that you're kind and you decode respect. When you gain that connection, when you begin to understand that respect is not a box, that respect means something different to someone else. To Esther, it means one thing. To Ruth, it means a different thing. To Stella, it means a different thing. To Wangui, it means a different thing. You're going on being deliberate and intentional about each person's conversation. So you're not using a template to go and say, okay, respect means this. It's not a template. It needs for you to connect to the person, understand the person, and know where they're coming from. And now this, we also scale it up now to institutions. For those of us that are big on doing presentations, for those of us that are really speakers and speaking to people, the way you get to understand people is if you're having a conversation with them or if you're having a connection with them. The faux pas that happened with Art Cafe, for instance, shouldn't have happened, because if they were already connecting with the people that are in the creative industry, they would have known that the conversation on that you don't eat exposure has been going on for like 3 years now. People have been talking about it on public forums. But if they were at that level, if that brand was at that level, then they would have been able to understand that this is not the way to do things. So connecting with people will also help us understand what it is that we need to give, so that we stop giving out communication strategies that are bland, communication strategies that have no life, conversations and presentations that really don't change anybody's life. Connect with others. I will talk about very briefly some of the things that can actually hamper our connection at a personal level and even at an institutional level. And there's many, but let me talk about them. Judging. When you're judgmental of people, when you look at people and you judge them just based on what you can see, that hampers your connection with them. Don't judge people. Don't be judgmental of the way people speak. Don't be judgmental of their content. Don't be judgmental with people. Look at people from a place of, I want to understand what your context is. Remember that you're also not coming from a place of a clean slate. Each of us is speaking, like I said, our voice is a collection of our experiences. It's a collection of where we've been and who has brought us up. The same way, the other person on this end is also coming from that place. So judging could actually cause us to lose connection with others. Looking down on others, there are those of us that do that. You come, you scan someone's profile, you see, oh, okay. They have a doctorate level, they have a master's degree, they're definitely lower than I am. And we do that often. By the way, we don't think about it, we do it automatically. I'll take you back. Remember your internal dialogue. Question it. What's making you do that? Don't look down on other people. Number 3, dogma. The feeling that you and your party are the ones who are right. What you believe is what's right. What you believe is what is the most important thing, and nobody else can sort of come into that place. Dogma. It completely causes you to lose a connection with others. For those of us that are looking to build bridges and connection with others, those that work in with influences where you need people to actually take in your message, dogma. Watch out for it. Watch out for trying to shove your thoughts, your feelings, your excitements, the things that you like on other people, but just believing that that's the real thing. And then drama. And by drama, I mean just unreasonable demands. Making unreasonable demands out of people, especially those people that you are leading, will also cause you to lose a connection. When you want something and it's high maintenance, there's a way to go about it. You could sit down, have a conversation with the person that can get you what it is that you need. Ask them, what are the possibilities? If, for instance, you're working on a campaign and there's a certain element of the campaign that you need designed in a certain way. It could be data. It could be you want it illustrated, and you want it illustrated in a certain way. Sit down with the people that can get you that and ask them, what is possible? This is what I want done. What can be done? What is really possible? Instead of throwing it out and sort of just making it hard for people to do by throwing out too much information, be reasonable in that sense. And then the last one I will talk about is complaining. Let your complaining in this sense be unheard, so to speak. When we complain, we come forth as someone who's unreasonable, childish even. And when we do that, then we stop the connection from the people that we would want to reach from happening. Remember, emotional connection is what causes communication to work. People need to essentially, actually, really like you to be able to do business with you or to work with you. It is important to actually be liked, and complaining doesn't do any favors for us. So if you're looking to enhance your speaking, make it your business to show concern for the things that other people care about. That would actually be a place to start. Try not to leave out others who maybe are not sharing of themselves. And this is again to both temperaments. Extroverts will tend to think that because introverts are not talking, they don't have anything to say. So you just make a decision without necessarily prodding them for feedback. And then on the other hand, you have introverts that tend to say, okay, this doesn't matter. So, they'll just do what needs to be done. Learn to not leave out others. Share your opinions if you're introverted, and let other people share their opinions if you're extroverted. I think for those of us who then tend to have a feeling where we have to share content that is really close to people, then you understand that one of the skills that we need to build is to actually build patience before we can shut other people down. So that's personal attributes. And then let's move to now the external part, your presence. Presence. I like that. What is it that sets you apart? Your presentation is your presence, what you bring to the stage. What do people smell, so to speak, or what scent do they feel you exuding as you speak to them? As we work in our internal dialogue, we clarify what we need to say. We work on what is the exterior part. And this is what I'm going to say. What is your presence? Here, I'll ask you something. What is the one unique thing externally that you bring to the table? And this might sound very shallow, even, I dare say, but imagine there is that one thing that only you have. For some people, it's hair. For some others, it's the way you speak. For others, it's your teeth, your set of teeth, the way your teeth sit. For others, it's the way you dress. For others, it's just your presentation. For others, it's just your command, your social capital, your reputation as a brilliant conversationalist. You have great looking skin, you have nice hair, you have an excellent figure, you have wonderful nails. What is it that you bring? That thing that you need to identify is what you play up when you come into a presentation. If you have great hair, wear great hair. If you have great nails, please wear great color on those nails. If it's the way you dress and that is what works for you, wear it. I've seen people that love shoes, for instance. Shoes are your thing. You're not necessarily into style, but shoes are your thing. I tell people, fine, if shoes are your thing, whatever it is that you wear them, up your shoe level and then let your shoes be seen if you're doing a public presentation. If it is in conversation, then that's when we also need to bring up what is the spark. For some of you, it's even a smile. And that's the most amazing thing. You bring a wonderful smile to the table. Use it. That presence, that is what you bring to the table. And that is what works pretty well for you. So how do you wear this? How do you wear that skill that you have? Then bring it to the table. I say every one of us has that spark that you bring to this table. Bring it. And then from there on, begin to build up what your content is. Bring your spark. It is what turns on what we say is confidence. The confidence that you bring to the stage. What we see in many proficient speakers is not necessarily what I think we have been advised is a good presentation. Some speakers are not all that good looking, for example, but they do a good job. Some speakers are not that very well dressed, but they still do a good job. Some speakers even don't have as strong a voice, but they still do a good job. What they do is that you find a spark, you find something that works for you, that works in your gifting. It works for you, and then you wear that strongly and bring on that confidence. All right. Then I want to talk about content for just a little bit, because your content then becomes what is it in the presentation that you're saying. And this is for, again, formal presentations. And for both, whether you're having a conversation that's important to you or you're doing a presentation at work, content is important. I have learned the rule of 3. When you want to have a conversation, when you're saying or presenting anything, choose 3 key areas within that topic that you're going to talk about. If, for instance, you're going to talk about emotional intelligence, for example, what are the 3 key areas in emotional intelligence? It could be what? Self-awareness, for instance, as one. Choose 2 more aspects of emotional intelligence. And then in each of those points, I go ahead and say, choose 3 more sub-points within that area. So what are the 3 important things in self-awareness? It's use, it's what, like, pick out those 3 things within self-awareness that then you can pick up. Let's say, for example, you want to talk to people about their resumes, for instance. I mean, like Esther did some time back. If you want to talk to people about their resumes, what are the 3 most important things? It could be the style, it could be the design that you use, and it could be your content areas. And so from those 3 areas, then you can talk about what is the style of your resume, what is the design that you're going to use, and what is the content, or what are what is the substance within those 3 resumes that you're going to use. When you start, craft that message and pick out 3 key areas, 3 key points. And those 3 key points, each point, pick up each of the key points and do a like 3 sub points out of that. That way you will be able to build content that will be coherent and people will understand where you're coming from. If you want to do something of a presentation at work, and I know I'll be asked this, if it's a formal presentation or we're presenting numbers, what are the 3 key areas that you can present in that? When you're doing a release, even to the media, press conference to the media, because that is also a presentation of sorts. What are the 3 key things that you want the people in media to understand? The rule of 3 apparently works the same way it works for storytelling. A story has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. So have those 3 key areas working and being important. And as we move along, I'll talk about the audience, people. Understand where the people that you're speaking to are. Please, guys, check on who you're speaking to. Please do research. Do a basic background of who your audience is. You know, when we talked about connection, this is exactly what we were talking about. Where are people at? What is the possibility of those people understanding your message as you want to share that message? You know, engage, ask questions, look at people, do observations in your organization, come up with an audit of what is this organization's character, what is it that this character needs, and how is it that I, as a communicator, can bring with my words, with my own communication, to really bring an impact to it. People engage from the level where they are at. So at times, maybe you will go into an organization and find that people do things in a certain way, and you're so tempted to change it and to turn it around. I'd say first understand how they got there. First understand what it is, that why is it that that system is currently working as it is, and then begin now to work from a place of understanding, and now you can begin to implement change. People will not respond until they know that you care about them, or at least you're thinking about them. Connection. It's a short slide because we've talked about connection and I need to be very conscious of time. And then towards the tail end, your reach. How do people know that you have understood what you have been speaking about or what you're speaking about? They'll ask you questions. They'll give you visual cues. They will take action. They will provide verbal feedback, and they will be interested to either understand more about what you're saying, or they will be interested to take much more action than they probably are taking, or they will be inquisitive. Always, please look to understand, are people getting where it is I'm coming from? Again, from the place where you have understood your internal dialogue, you will come to the place where have people understood what it is that you're saying. And finally, how do you measure whether you're doing well? Your bouquet of progress. Who are you speaking to? When you have understood your audience and you can actually have a proper audit of, say, these are the people that I'm speaking to, they're like this, they're like that. You see, like the way we do a brand strategy, in a brand strategy, you create the persona of whatever it is that you want to brand. It speaks to you and stands out to you. In speaking, it's the same. Let your understanding, the understanding of your audience be so clear that you have made progress. The first progress that you make is by showing that you understand who these people are. And then secondly, again, a skill with connection. What are people not saying? What is it that people are not saying when they don't show up, when they don't ask questions? What are they saying? What is not being said in this conversation? A really good, a powerful body language speaker, Janine Driver, spoke of something some time back, and she was giving this talk, and she said that on one of the shuttles between her travel, she came home, and her husband was having a hard time calming one of their children down. So they couldn't tell whether he was sick, he was not eating, there was all this drama around him. And she said that one of the things, because she said this is what she learned, one of the things that I learned is that we had checked everything. We had checked what was not there, but what we hadn't checked is what he was not saying. And as she sat there and sort of tried to comfort him, she actually picked out that he was having a hard time, that she kept being away from home. I think someone else also shared this. I'm forgetting their name. They shared this, the whole idea of how to manage children, especially when you have to move around. Understand what is not being said. What is it that people are doing something, or they're doing what you think is acting up, but really they are communicating in that sense. Being able to decode what's not being said, and especially in difficult conversations, like we're saying, it is worth its weight in gold. And then you're being able to understand what, why, and how of your message. Don't just speak to speak. Speak because there is something that you need to get out. Speak because there is something that you want to share. Speak because there is something that you want to also understand from people. Speak. What, why, and how. Your message, its purpose, and delivery are critical to measure your progress as a speaker. And so I want to sort of just wind it down at that point, and I think invite a place for questions. I realize that we probably need to be closing in a short while. So that's it. Your internal dialogue is important, is the most important speech. I would that if you don't take anything else away from this presentation, please understand that you need to begin to interrogate your internal dialogue. Think about what you are thinking about, and being able to answer the question, who are you to you? Nimemaliza.
Great. Wow, what a great presentation. Thank you so much, Wangoi. We
Karibu.
really, really appreciate the presentation, and I think we can all say that we've learned something great out of here. So we want to pick a few questions. I can't see any in the chat, so I don't know if anybody has a question or two. We could just do a few before we wrap it up. Anybody with a question? Maybe I could just allow you to ask live.
I think somebody has asked, is it possible to be stronger in your written communication while struggling with the spoken? And yes, the answer is yes. It's very, very possible. Very, very possible. In fact, you find that a lot of people who are strong in the written aspects of communication tend to struggle with the spoken aspects of it. And for those, that's why elements of coaching are important. They're important because you need to now know, okay, so this is what I've written, but then again, how do I power up my speaking? So yes, it is actually possible to do that. And it's also not a death sentence in and of itself. It's actually important to be able to understand that you can be very good in written communication, but you can also be very good in spoken communication. By the way, a lot of good speakers may also not be very good writers. So it also works the same way. So with the speakers, you can also sort of take the time to be able to become a better speaker, especially when you have to do presentations.
Okay, just a comment that I saw. Somebody said your tone, like when you're communicating, your tone is evident even in texts, like chats. You know, maybe you want to comment on that.
Yes, actually it is. It actually is quite evident. People can tell if you're, I think that's why emojis are really strong, because many times the way people speak with their written on their chats actually does speak about their tone. And I want to say this, be careful how you want to be viewed, especially if you really feel strongly about something and you want to say it, then say it. But many times I've also found that it's important. Sometimes you will want to write something to fire back, but it's important to check. Just check. Remember, I told you about the 3 to 6 second, how do you say, the 3 to 6, the 3 seconds to 6 seconds wait. Think about it. Is it worth it before you actually put out something that you then cannot be able to get back? So yes, that is also true.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's something you said last. Sorry, I joined late. Maybe you might have explained. Interrogate my internal dialogue. What would be the pointers to do this?
What would be the pointers to do what? To interrogate your internal dialogue?
Yes. What's the process?
Okay. It's not really a process. I think it's an everyday kind of thing, but let me tell you how I do it. Usually I will sit down. I do it in three ways. One, I take stock of my thoughts in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, as I'm doing my morning devotion, I will usually sit down and just be quiet for a bit to listen to my thoughts. So I'll be able to pick out thoughts that are especially troubling, and I'll find out, why is this happening? I've learned to interrogate my thoughts that way. So why is this happening? Where is this coming from? And then I'll take some time with it to check where it's coming from. Usually you can get a thread of how that thought is coming through. And then you need to either say that you'll do something about it, or at times, by the way, just because it's a thought doesn't mean that it's a truth. Sometimes you just need to toss it and say, that can't happen. Again, another way I do it is that during the day, if something upsets me or throws me off balance, or something pretty much excites me, I will always, when I have a burst of feelings, I will take some time, just a few seconds, to sit down and think, okay, where am I at in this process? Instead of reacting to the feeling that I'm feeling, I'll be driving and I'll feel maybe anxiety, or I'll find that I'm cutting people off more than I should be. Yes, I do cut people off at times. More than I should be. I ask myself, where's my anxiety coming from? And then I can be able to sort of quickly check it and take it back to, okay, there's something going on here. You usually want to also take a huge stock, especially if you haven't done it before. Now, this is where I recommended a book, and I think I have seen Stella has put a link to Dr. Leaf. Any one of you that uses any books, the app, you will be able, now it's a free download app, but to be able to access books, you need to pay, I think, about 700 shillings. So you can be able to get the book, Dr. Caroline Leaf's book, and she has a 21-day process, especially on your thoughts. But for me, internally, for my internal dialogue, that's how I do. I don't know who asked the question. Sorry, I'm on a different screen, so please pardon me if I didn't see
Janet.
your face very well as you. Okay, Janet. So that's what you need to do. Take some time. Actually, take time for you. The same way, if think about it this way, if you are maybe supervising someone, or even if you're with a child and they do something that doesn't seem right or seems right, you will call them aside and actually have a tete-a-tete with them. That's the same thing I'm recommending for us in terms of our internal dialogue. Please don't let thoughts just come in through, or people say, like someone told me, Janet, if I said that you are a pink elephant, you would of course think that thought is ridiculous. I mean, and reject it. But how is it that if I would say something else, like, Janet, why are you careless? Or, Janet, why are you this? Why is it easy to take that on? Don't just take thoughts as they come in. You need to interrogate where the truth of those thoughts is coming from. Because again, and it's a painful process, by the way, especially as you begin to do it, you'll begin to learn that some things that we've been holding on to are just curtailing our voices. I hope that answers you, Janet.
It really does. Thanks.
All right. I have another question. Somebody is asking, is it possible to be rude unknowingly? Yes, I think that's called being tone deaf. when you just speak and sort of offend other people, it can be because you're tone deaf. And what I recommend is understanding or beginning to build up your self-awareness. There's a wonderful tool, and I'm sure all of you communicators have come across it. It's called the Johari Window. And the Johari Window is really the 4 quadrants that help you sort of build up what is called an open area. And many managers have used it for a long time. It's a tool that was developed by psychologists, but managers have used it for a long time to be able to help teams work cohesively. As a communicator, I've found that it's a perfect tool for helping people build their self-awareness. So just take up the tool, the 4 quadrants of the Johari Window, and look at what is your open area, the things that you know about yourself and other people know about you. But also take some time, especially in a circle of people that you trust, to ask for their feedback. What do you think about me in this place? What do you think about me in this area? I usually do it in the formative stages of my coaching and mentoring. We'll want to ask people to find out or pick feedback from the people that are closest to them. And many times people will be surprised when they are told, oh, you're harsh, oh, you can come forth as this and that. So it could be either one of the two things for the lady that has asked that. It could either be that maybe the people that perceive your rude could be that they are offended by the way you present yourself, or it could be that you really are rude and offensive. Anybody who's watched Big Bang Theory, I'm sorry, I can't find any other example to come up with on this, will know that Sheldon Cooper was like that. The person that offends everybody else and then wonders, by the way, why are you so basic, you people? This is the way I speak. So it's possible to be very tone deaf, but one of the things, again, that we want to as communicators, that we don't want to isolate people. You actually want to have people coming to the place where you are, they are hearing what your message is. I hope I have answered that.
Beatrice had raised her hand. Maybe you can give her an opportunity to ask her question.
Yeah, thank you for the great presentation. I'm loving it. I wanted to ask a question on words. Which words do we use which block the connection with the audience? Which frequent words, even in daily conversations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we use? Now, there is many words, and it's contextual. Today in my household in the morning, we were just talking about before this presentation. So this is funny, Beatrice, because it just speaks to something we were talking about in my household. And we were saying that we were looking at a thread on what are the things that people do in your country that are completely acceptable. And one of the things that someone said is that in my country, we don't trust people that call you my friend. You know what? I am not your friend. Don't call me your friend if we've just met. So it could be that. By the way, let me tell you, they are generally everyday used words. Okay could be a very dismissive word. Thank you could be a very condescending word. Calling you my friend could be a very condescending word. What we need to understand, I will take you back to connection. When you're speaking to people, and especially if it's on a closer level, these are family relations, these are work relations, even these are general presentations where you're going into context. Please understand what the context of your audience is. Sometimes the words that you use will be offensive to people, not because of the way you said them, but because of the context of where they are coming from, what they have had. Maybe the when you say, okay, like when you say, or there's a word, this one I've gotten in trouble with, because I used to say whatever a lot. And when I said, I was saying, it's fine. If you choose this or that, I'm fine. So someone will ask me, so do you want tea or coffee? I'm like, whatever, because I think it's tea or coffee. Until I think it must have taken 4 or 5 people to tell me, by the way, that to me is very dismissive. I don't know what to do when you tell me whatever. So I started to question, maybe I should stop using this word because it's not working. Look out for the reactions of people, Beatrice, but before they even react as you use the words, understand the context where they are from. What are the words that sort of cause them to feel a certain way just because of their context? Because we are the sum of our experiences. That is what we bring. As much as we work in workspaces, for example, where we are brought into those workspaces because of our qualification, we're also people that are coming from contexts of families, contexts of cultures, contexts of different spaces where our words are at. So just check with the context of the people that you're speaking to, and be wary of using those words. Again, it could be that also for you, you are like draining your own power by using, how do I say it, by using words as their pet words. For me, those words, or personally, I do this. Or when people ask you, how are you feeling today? And you say, I'm feeling okay. That's the one that frustrates me the most, because my work is not dependent on people telling me they are okay. I want more details. So check out for those, because it can also come forth as dismissive. Again, this is an element of our active listening. Listen to understand, not listen to respond. I don't know if that at least answers you. Beatrice?
Yeah, it has.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
so
thank you.
context, listening for context.
Yes.
Patience, do you want to go next? You're on mute.
Sorry, I've unmuted myself now. Thank you, Ongoi, for this very informative presentation. Really appreciated and maybe timely for our conversation. But I would like to poke your brains on our understanding about women and this template we have in life. I kind of feel like women, we are brought up being told, oh, you don't speak so loud, you're a girl, you can't do this. And then you grow up and then there's a different template. Girls, ladies don't speak like this. And then now you get into the work setting and like women don't speak like this, especially they're in leadership. I feel like it's really a battle all through and a fine balance between who you want to be and how you want to express yourself in an authentic way vis-a-vis what is presented to you as a template of what a woman needs to be. And because I truly love reading magazines of older women and women who are in their 60s and 50s. One of the favorite magazines that I love in the UK is called Platinum. So this month I actually looked for it so that I could say what this lady on the cover page says. So in her 56 years, she says, one of the things that I've learned is if I spend time with someone and I find myself worrying whether they thought I was too loud or too talkative, I know they're not for me. Because I really need to be me at any given time. So then I'm asking myself, if in her 56 years, she's learned that and she thinks it's very key, how far can we just be able to maintain a style that is my style and this is how I talk, and everyone else who appreciates it can appreciate it, and for those who dismiss it can easily dismiss it and still, get away with it.
Okay, as you were speaking something, I had a visual coming to my head, and that visual is something called Mrs. America. I'm very visual. I learn a lot from watching different series as they were done, and I think that it relates to what it has to do with women. I'll tell you this, Patience, as you pick my mind, not poke it, as you pick my mind. If the thing is, if we are going to suppress our conversation, it is going to kill us. It is going to be the place where what we are actually doing when we are always letting other people have their way instead of us sort of sharing our words, is that we are removing the strength of our internal dialogue. I said one thing when I started this presentation, and the thing is this: the battle for, personally, what I have noticed that the battle for me is the battle of my voice. The battle for, I think, every woman is the battle of our voice. If you can be a woman without a voice, people will be very happy because their insecurities will completely not be in balance. Again, that's one thing. Two, and I will speak to you and to anyone in this forum who's a choleric and has felt that way, because it is not just you. It is every choleric woman in this forum that has been told that you speak, you're too loud, you're too brash, you don't speak like that, you don't do that. For all of us that have been told that, you're not supposed to be this and that. The thing is, there is a place for a balance. That's why you're a woman. There's a place for speaking every single thing that you need to say or are called to say. And there's also a place for marking a territory of respect. And I like what you've just quoted. That lady says, if I have to keep questioning myself, whether I am right or wrong, then I probably am not in the right forum. And that's okay. It's important, again, Patience, to understand that there are conversations, not every conversation is for you. There are conversations that we don't just have to step out of, we need to step out of those conversations and away from those conversations. In another forum, we could talk about boundaries in our own conversation. I've done a video on boundaries. You don't have to have conversations with everybody, but there are forums and stages and places where you will have a conversation. Some of those stages and some of those platforms you will need to fight for, but they will not be, you will not fight for them in a way that the fight means that you suppress your voice. So for you, here is what I'd recommend. When for women in that level, please find like-minded women, find women who are at the same element in terms of their speaking voice as you are. Secondly, what you also need to understand is that cultivate also active listening. Listen to what other people are saying. What is it, even though it is offensive, even though it looks to suppress you, what is it that they are saying? Half the time, you will find that it's because people are afraid of you. People are afraid of what you represent or not knowing what you represent. And as you begin to speak now from a place of understanding, it ceases to become the conflict drawing blood, and it becomes a conflict of building a consensus. We may not necessarily see eye to eye, but I can see this, I can see where you're coming from. I don't agree with you, but we don't have to be, you don't have to suppress me so that you can be, and I don't have to suppress you so that you can be. I don't know if that makes sense. I would say if you actually get into a space where you allow for your voice to be curtailed, and it's not of your own, it's not out of your own will, where you say, okay, in this one I cede. If it's not out of your own will, if it's that you're being made to suppress your voice, then I put it to you, yes, you actually need to step away and find a stage where you will be able to speak. I was thinking about Viola Davis today in the morning, just before I came in here. And one of the strengths for Viola Davis, and I think she wears this very proudly, is that she has always stood up as what is called a troublemaker, that she will not shy away from a platform of speaking who she is, not because she's looking to make a point, but because she has begun to understand who she represents as she stands on a stage, that she speaks for every young woman who is voiceless and dark-skinned, that she speaks for every young woman who's looking to get onto the stage but can't because they have been told they look a certain way. And her strength, even in her own, she's one of those few actresses where it doesn't feel like she's acting. Every single role that you see Viola Davis in, it feels like you're relating to this human being that has so much strength. And I think we can do it that way. And it's true, you're right, Patience. We have really been suppressed as women in terms of our voices. And I think that's why for us to remedy our internal dialogue means that we will be able to speak regardless of who says that we cannot speak.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
There's one more question. All right. So there's one question from Christine. I think it's the last one, and then we can wrap it up. She asks, how do you unlearn what you've learned in your formative years in terms of confidence and how to speak eloquently?
All right. It's not simple, but it's simple. How do you unlearn? You go back to the place, just do an audit. Go back to the place where you feel that the confidence got broken down. For some people, it was that you were asked to do a debate and then you flunked in that debate, or something happened that broke your confidence. You actually need to go back into that place. If it's very, very extreme, I'd recommend speak to somebody who's very well versed with being able to heal your inner child, especially if it was brutal. I'm talking about, cases of abuse and that sort of thing. That needs to be brutal. But in terms of if you find that you just stumbled because maybe you were told to read out aloud in English class, and people laughed at you, all you can do is begin to rebuild that again. What is it that caused me to lose that confidence? And then write it all down, and then say, what can I do about this? If it is speaking eloquently, let me give you an exercise that I always give, even to people that are in my class. I recommend this. Read something out loud for 20 minutes every day. It could be anything, a newspaper article, an article on Twitter or Facebook or social media or whatever. Just read it out aloud for 20 minutes and begin to listen to your voice. Begin to understand what your pronunciation is. If you want to build up your word base, there's something I do. There's an app, dictionary.com. Get dictionary.com. They have this excellent thing where they do word of the day and build your vocabulary in that. read the word of the day, not so that you can sort of scare people with words, but so that you can build and better your understanding. And then every day's meaning, read it out loud. What is it that it's saying to me? So if you want to speak eloquently, read stuff out loud. Take even work stuff like documents, like emails. If you get to your place earlier now, I mean, if for those of us who are working remotely, just read out an email out loud. Read it out loud for like 20 minutes. I recommend for people to do that, and it actually works. It can actually help you speak better as you begin to also become confident with your own physical voice. I hope that answers you.
I think you've been answered, Christine.
Okay. So,
yes, she said thank you in the chat.
All right.
So
Okay.
yes,
All right.
yes.
So I just want to share a few resources. This is, by the way, these are not the very end of it. Just a few people that you can look at who speak. They did very good presentations, and yet they were not exactly very strong speakers. Actually, here, apart from, I think, Julian Treasure, who's a sound designer, I've given look out for these TED presentations, and these are early on. Jill Bolte Taylor shares a presentation on how she had a stroke, one of the best TED presentations ever. Sir Kevin Robinson talks about education, one of the best TED Talks ever. Megan Washington is an Australian singer, and she's a stutterer. And so she shared a presentation on what it was like to do that. Amy Cuddy talked about body language, sort of how we can power up our confidence in our body language. And Joe Cohen talks about how to master your nerves. Julian Treasure, of course, is a master speaker, spoke about how to speak so that people want to listen. So these are just presentations. I also want to recommend something for those of us that attend all of this. There's quite a bit of speaking shows that have been organized locally. There's one that's very popular, but it's skipping my head. Look at the speakers that have spoken in that. I'll share it on the chat as soon as I get it. So these are for presentations. Engage? Yes, Engage. Thank you very much. Engage. So look at some of the speakers that have spoken at Engage. Don't look at the very good ones. Look at the normal speakers that have spoken and done a very good job with it. And then for narrations, because I know that there's some of us who really need help with our voices. One of the things that I have learned and loved about plugging into a resource called the School of Life. This is a resource that was founded by Elaine de Botton and another lady. And Elaine is the one who voices the videos that they do. Please take some time to just listen to that. The way he organizes his thoughts will help anybody who's interested in speaking. For those of you that would be interested in having, to do audio presentations, this is a very good tool. So this is just some of the tools that you can actually just go and check out. So check out School of Life either on YouTube or on their own page. They will usually have fantastic content. Even for, I think, Christine, that you asked about the inner child, Elaine de Botton does justice to the issues of life in terms of internal dialogue as well. And for the presentations, you will find those in TED and also in Engage.
Great. And with that, I think we can wrap it up now.
Just a second, maybe can I add something? I think also Dadasphere, the one that is done courtesy of Valentine Joroge, is also one.
Yes,
she has
yes, Dadasphere. Yeah, Dadasphere as well.
Yeah, and then they have also a very good trainer. I think his name is Richard. I forget his other name, but he's available to train people. And I think also maybe Toastmasters, I think, Ongoi.
I think Toastmasters as well. I personally, I'll be honest, I have not had any engagement with them, but at least I have engaged with Engage, pun intended.
Okay. Yeah, because I know Toastmasters, one of my friends, Karen Okole, really recommends it most of the time. He's always trying to force us to be members or to attend. So I think it's really one of those areas that they teach you holistically on how you package your messaging, including non-verbal, verbal communication, how you manage stage fright. So yeah, I think that could be another area.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll be able to share the recording and your presentation, Wangoi. I'm sure people would want to have it. So we'll be able to share with you, and you can listen again and go through it and see what you need to learn from it. But I want to say thank you so much. It was a very excellent presentation. I love the colors.
Me too.
I saw somebody saying they now feel, somebody even said, I feel like I should now change my presentations to pink. Pink and black is the new thing. So really, really great presentation. And I think we can all leave here having learned so much. So with that said, I would like to invite Sheila to just do, to take our photos. Let's just have 1 or 2 minute photo sessions, put on your videos so that she can do this. Sheila, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We can all put on our videos.
Yes.
Wangui, please stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, that's what I want to do right now.
Thank you.
Are all our videos up?
Trying to see if I can run my. I'm wearing a t-shirt written "Women can do anything."
Or maybe we'll stand. We can't see it.
I'm so tempted too.
You have to decide whether you want your face or bosom.
You can start like this.
Is this the aroma you're bringing here? What is your aroma? Is this the aroma patience that you're bringing here?
The last time I wore it, my brother says, "Stop shouting, stop shouting, stop shouting." We know it.
Agnes, Grace, Winnie, Sharon. Your videos, please. Agnes, Winnie, Sharon, Grace, Waithira.
Merindo Lily, you're the one who has the, what is it called? Interreligious
council.
Yeah, there she is. I told you it's her.
Merin metuma salamu. Yeah. Okay. So are we good, Sheila?
We have 2 more people without video, Winnie and Grace.
Grace Waithira.
Esther, your hair looks lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Esther, you changed your name.
Oh,
thank you.
Grace, Winnie, or maybe we can just take the 2 of us then. Minus the 2 videos. So smile and saying washe.
Washe.
Okay, done. Thanks.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all so much for coming. I appreciate your presence. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you for telling us about this and for sharing your resources.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Stella,
we'll take
are you
a
the one
break
who is
next
next?
week. No. I don't think it's Stella. I think it's Juliet is the one who's next, but she's not here. So we'll take a break and then the next
What's
session.
that session all about? Do you have an idea, right? You can maybe share.
It is her topic is on network building, and I think all of us being in the field of communication, for sure, we need that skill. We need to know how to do it. So she'll be taking us through that network building, which is on the 22nd of August. So next week we'll take a break and then we'll be back on 22nd of August. But we'll share the flyer and we'll post in the group. We'll keep reminding you. So with that said, I think we just do the closing prayer and then we'll end. Beatrice, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. You can give us the closing prayer and then we can end it.
Let us pray. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we come before you this good afternoon. We want to give you thanks. We want to give you glory and honor, for you are good to us and you love us. You're full of mercy and your promises to us stand. I want to thank you this morning that you've brought us all together and we have good report. It's a time of hardship. We have a pandemic in the entire world. Yet, Lord, each and every one of us attending this meeting is healthy. You've protected us, you've protected our families, and we are happy. We just want to thank you and give you glory and honor. Father, we want to thank you for the presenters who've been a resource to the entire group since these topics began. We want to thank you this morning for Wangui. We want to commit her and her family and her businesses, the work she does with her husband, the children, give them health, continue protecting them, give them prosperity, and increase to her much more for everything she has given. She's even given us this topic or this teaching today free without charging us. Lord, may you meet her at her point of need financially. Open doors for her. And Lord, as we come to finish this discussion today, I want to ask you, Father, to open our minds so that we'll be able to be communicating and connecting, not only with the work we do, the people we meet, but even with you, Father. And as we disperse, we want to commit the rest of the day unto your mighty hands. Give us protection, comfort us, surround us with your love, give us guidance, and increase our boundaries. We pray all this in the mighty name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. The sessions would not be, would not be fun without you and your participation. So thank you for coming. And thank you so much, Ongoi, again for this. Thank you, Juliet.